You know, I love surprises. Who doesn't, after all? Walking into an experience expecting something distinct and walking away with something far better than you could have possibly expected is truly enthralling and invigorating. And in the realm of film specifically, it's something that can happen more often than not. I mean, you probably know the distinct feeling. We've all gone into a specific film before, not expecting much in the way of execution or expectation, and then leave actually shell-shocked at what the movie accomplishes overall. And when I say that the new film Tuner is exactly the type of film that stirs this phenomenon, I mean every single word of it. Now, to put it into context, I'm sure that many of you are scratching your heads right about now wondering what exactly this film is. And don't worry, I was in the same exact boat as many of you at one point. Looking back at Sundance this past January, I first saw the title at the festival but was unable to check out the film in my packed and busy schedule. However, this was not a film that fell by the wayside in my subconsciousness. Rather, I felt the presence of Tuner everywhere I went over the next few months, as more and more festivals played the film and more acclaim was lauded onto the film itself. This was enough to pique my interest, and I knew that I would have to check out the film for myself. Now, walking into this film, I was not aware of anything that the project entailed. I knew that the film starred Leo Woodall and Dustin Hoffman, and I was familiar with the director Daniel Rohr's previous work, including the incredible documentary films The AI Doc and Nalvery. However, I was interested to see how Rohr's tendencies as a documentary filmmaker would translate to a structure like narrative fiction, as the two specific formats of film could not be more different even if they tried. However, outside of the superficial familiarity with the film, to say I approached Tuner with nothing in the way of expectation or knowledge about what the film itself would be is an accurate statement. Heading in, I purposely did not watch trailers or marketing materials for the film itself, and in a complete rarity for my coverage work, I didn't even read a plot synopsis on the film itself. All I knew was that this was a film that was a prime opportunity to walk into completely blind, and I am so glad I did because Tuner left me completely speechless. I mean, I walked out of the film in utter silence. Simply put, I loved everything about this movie. You know, oftentimes when you're watching a movie unfold and you realize the genuine craft, artistry, and care put into every second of its runtime, you just know deep down that you're watching something truly special. And this exact feeling occurred as Tuner played out before me. More than anything, this film is a wholly original and individual project, showcasing the best of the best in terms of the independent genre and offering something so starkly different yet incredible within the crowded box office landscape. And seeing this incredible film play out on such a large scale in a premium format really reminded me that this is the type of film that reminds us of why we love the movie-going experience. You know, it's fun to watch the newest blockbusters every weekend as they enthrall and engage audiences and fans alike, but it's when you truly dig beneath the surface to uncover smaller, more powerful projects like this that really reinforces why you fell in love with film in the first place. And that is precisely what makes Tuner so special. Tuner opens as we are introduced to Nikki White, played by Leo Woodall, a young apprentice in the piano tuning business who is under the watch and care of experienced tuner Harry Horowitz, played by Dustin Hoffman. Nikki deals with a sensitivity to sound since birth that causes him to try to block out the surrounding noise and atmosphere that can seem oppressive and abrasive. However, one day, Nikki discovers something a little bit more unique about his aptitude in this business. You see, in a chance encounter, Nikki discovers that in addition to his talent in tuning, he also has quite the talent in cracking safes. As he continues to practice his skill, growing in repertoire by the minute, Nikki soon discovers he is in way over his head as other interested parties learn about a specific skill set and seek to use it for their own selfish gains. On its surface, Tuner is a heist film a la classic Soderbergh films of old, yet also feels quite distinct within the confines of its own genre. Taken at face value, the film is surely a tale about a young piano tuner who manages to crack safes with equal measure, and on this level, the film is surely a rampant exercise in drawn-out tension, with many sequences in this movie that would even make Danny Ocean himself impressed. However, on the reverse side of this, Tuner clearly elevates itself above the rest of the competition alone through artistic originality and individuality. And that's really what makes it so fun to watch. For starters, we have to talk about the core aspect of music and sound within the film, and how it conveys so much of the film's dramatic stakes and tension throughout its runtime. I'm saying it right here and right now, Tuner deserves an Academy Award nomination for sound design next year, and there is no justice in the world if it does not land such a spot. I have yet to see a film this calendar year alone that utilizes this specific aspect of filmmaking such a prevalent and visceral way. Not just knocking the execution out of the park in terms of technical craft, which does sound equally as impressive in a loud and booming Dolby Cinema auditorium, but also how the film itself integrates the core sound design into the very fabric of the plot itself, which allows it to become almost a central element in the story as well. Sound designer Johnny Byrne, best known for his knockout work on 2023's The Zone of Interest, once again places such a prevalence onto an element of film that is often overlooked in terms of raw connectivity and power amid audiences. And the result here is nothing short of staggering. For starters, we are immediately placed within the viewpoint of Nicky within the film in relation to his core hearing impairment, through cleverly placed technique and filtration in the soundscape. As the character Nicky moves through distinct environments, reacting to the noise itself through sensitivity, we as audiences feel every pulse, every screech, and every jolt that inflicts pain onto Nicky. In a sense, we as audiences, through the core sound design of the film, are experiencing the story through the shoes of Nicky, which is something I've really never experienced in a film like this before. There's something so meticulous and careful in the way that Byrne has set up and executed so many of the sound-driven moments of the film, whether it's the devastating effect of horns blaring or the careful clicks of a safe lock as its pins move around bit by bit. This is especially true within the core safe cracking scenes in the film, in which we are placed in such a vulnerable position right alongside Nicky as every pulse and beat of the inner mechanisms of the device is more than felt by audiences. However, on the reverse of this, not every sound placement in the film is as quiet and reflective as you might expect. Tuner is a film that is not afraid to get loud, both in terms of sound design yet also thematic narrative. Perhaps one of the most stirring moments in the film in this regard occurs when a recurring plane landing noise is used to stir paranoia and anxiety in audiences, building to a peak as the scene progresses in one of the most stirring and deeply enthralling sequences of the entire calendar year alone. However, working hand in hand with the sound design of the film is Daniel Rohr's direction itself, which is really something truly special and truly elevates itself above the rest of the competition. I'm just going to say it outright, I am in awe of so many of the directorial choices instilled within the film here. There's such a clear and careful vision on display throughout the film's runtime, and it genuinely plays out with so much flourish and drive in every decision. The careful pacing and editing of the film never allow the film to drag nor rush, instead squeezing out every effective moment it possibly can to draw a reaction out of its audience. Perhaps one of my favorite shots in the entire film itself occurs when Rohr places a fisheye point of view on the safe wheel itself, literally spinning audiences around as we watch Nicky hard at work on the safe. No matter where you look in this film, there's a clear artistic voice on display, even in the slower and more contemplative moments in between. On a characterization level as well, the film manages to deliver a story about desire and greed that not only feels substantial but nuanced as well. Nicky as a character is not someone we intrinsically hate. In fact, quite the opposite. Woodall is so adept at contextualizing the apprentice as someone optimistic yet grizzled at the world around him. After an event caused the talented musician to quit playing the piano entirely, he has instead devoted his life to their care and longevity, often placed into such an effective dynamic between Hoffman's Harry that feels charming and carefree. However, after discovering his new skill set that can mean many opportunities for success in his future, Nicky begins to open a metaphorical Pandora's box of sorts that threatens not just himself but also the people he loves. You see, people start to take notice of Nicky's skill in the safe-cracking world. However, these people do not always have the best interests of many at heart. Rather, they are cold, unfeeling, and ruthless, hoping to get ahead at any cost in this world without any regard for how it affects the people around them. However, as Nicky is drawn into this very world, an important characteristic decision is how he attempts to reject this very notion. You see, every dollar that Nicky earns from these exploits serves a purpose in providing or serving the people around him, whether it's Harry's business, Harry's wife Marla, or even Nicky's new girlfriend Ruthie, who is herself attempting to make a name in the musician's space with an impressive upcoming solo. However, an important character turn occurs when Nicky starts to realize that the monetary value he places onto the people around him through extravagant gifts and monetary purchases does not place any worth or value onto the admiration or affection he feels for them. Rather, for every dollar spent on material wealth for these people, it seems as if the money serves as a way to distance himself from them entirely. And it's through this core exchange itself that Nicky starts to reevaluate his core belief and intent through the process of safecracking to examine the damage and hurt he's caused. However, this does not mean that Tuner is a story that involves a carefree or happy-go-lucky execution. In fact, the exact opposite of this is the case. A comparison point honestly reminds me of when I first saw Uncut Gems, in which the increasingly tense and anxiety-ridden story of one man drawn in way too over his head into a circumstance outside of his control keeps building the pressure bit by bit until the explosive final act occurs. And in this way, Tuner is the exact type of film that keeps you guessing by the minute, where you think you know what direction the story is headed, only to have the metaphorical rug pulled out from underneath you when you least expect it. As always, this review is spoiler-free to preserve the experience of watching the film for audiences, but to say I spent the better part of the last half of this movie consistently shifting in my seat due to tension, afraid of where the story was about to progress as the stakes continue to build on top of each other is an accurate statement. I will not reveal any specifics here, but there is a distinct reveal in the third act of the film that made my stomach completely drop, where I knew for a fact that the resulting circumstances were not going to be good whatsoever. And this in turn is a true testament to Roar and his team, and how even a small piece of dialogue within the film can change the game completely to deliver an experience you'll likely never forget. As mentioned, Leo Woodall knocks it out of the park as the core safecracker, and Dustin Hoffman is a pure delight as Harry, who is always there with a wisecrack and sound advice to steer the character along with charisma in only the way a performer like Hoffman knows how to. However, I will say that the performance that really stuck out the most to me here and managed to land an impact was actually Havana Rose Liu as Ruthie, Nikki's love interest, who herself faces many dramatic stakes as the film progresses along. Liu approaches the part with a mindset that seems to break down the core confines of what is traditionally expected in a part of this caliber and many other similar movies, to forge a path forward for her character that feels natural and nuanced. She in particular has some incredible dramatic moments in the third act of the film that manage to cut deep and never let go. And when you see them, you'll definitely know. Overall, to say that Tuner managed to completely enamor me throughout its runtime is an accurate statement. I loved this movie so much, and the more I sit with it and contemplate its execution, the further this love grows by the minute. What at first seems to be a superficial or stock execution that we've seen many times before in this space soon turns into something wholly original and fresh, broaching familiar ideas with something remarkably complex and different in its approach. Granted, Tuner is not a perfect movie itself. The writing in particular feels a little bit rough, particularly around some of the dialogue choices in the film, especially within the first act. Although I grew to love the flourishing relationship between Nikki and Ruthie in the film, which is especially prevalent and important in the third act, I did feel as if the film takes a little bit too much time establishing their relationship in moments that ultimately feel discordant from the rest of the runtime itself, which can be somewhat distracting when you're putting the whole film into context here. And ultimately, although the ending itself is more than satisfying and rousing, I can't help but feel as if there were a few specific plot lines here that were never fully unraveled to their maximum potential, leaving audiences with some questions that ultimately have no answers. However, I can say that Tuner more than makes up for these flaws in any way it can. But don't just take my word for it, check it out yourself. More than anything, this is a movie that was made to be experienced in a movie theater. If you can find it playing on the big screen near you, especially in Dolby Cinema, seek it out 100%. With more than enough suave charm operating inside of its screenplay, combined with artistic execution that utilizes the senses in such a visceral fashion, Tuner is far and away one of the biggest surprises of the year, and once again remains a true testament to the storytelling capacity of independent cinema itself. This is such a special film, and I can't wait for you all to check it out. That's why I'm giving Tuner a 4 out of 5 stars. Tuner releases in theaters everywhere May 29th.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this review on my channel. If you're new around here and you like the content you see, don't forget to click that subscribe button down below, like the video, and turn on push notifications. Also, leave comment suggestions down below for future video, essay, and review topics. With that being said, until next time, this is Mitchell signing off. Peace out.